welcome to another episode of Carolyn Talks Television. I'm Carolyn Topol, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Rachel Arnett.
Hello, hello.
And Rachel, in her very special way, will introduce the theme for today's episode. And go, Rachel.
Our show is alive with the sound of music.
Yes, today we are doing musical television shows.
My favorite genre, if I'm being honest.
And you know what? While it may not, or may be my favorite genre, I'm not sure, but I love when music's incorporated in good television.
Absolutely. It always adds something.
And, you know, it also gives us a sense of the actors and that they're not cookie cutters and they can't just do what they're doing, that they do have a lot of talent. And it's not just about the show they're on at that moment.
And every once in a while, someone really surprises you. And you're completely and utterly shocked at their fantastic voice or their killer dance moves or their suave, soft shoe, and it's amazing.
And we're going to talk about a whole lot of those in a little while. First, we're going to start and give you a little bit of a history lesson, our version of TV history.
Yes.
And for example, shows have had music for a long time now. Variety shows have been in place since the very beginning with Sid Caesar. And then we move on to more recent decades, and there was the Carol Burnett show, which was really rich in music and musical
so
talent.
beautiful. Oh.
Always was on there. They had some of the best. Sonny and Cher. And also, and this is what I love, that the sitcoms.
It was always incorporated.
Over the decades, the sitcoms brought in music. It wasn't just about that show, that moment. If you had talent on there that could sing, they knew how to bring that into the show and share it with the world. And just a little while ago, we were chatting because, of course, we don't only talk about television when we're here. We just are incessantly talking about it regularly.
Incessantly, yeah, those are good words.
And one of the things we talked about, and Rachel brought up, was I Love Lucy, right off the bat.
It always stood out to me because those scenes when they would take you to the bandstand, my favorite scene in the whole movie, in the whole TV show, is where Lucy is telling him that she's pregnant.
I was just thinking of the same one.
It's one of those scenes that's so classic. She's having my baby, and he has no idea that it's him. And it's hilarious and sweet and beautifully sung.
And everybody who watched that show also knew, of course, that she really was pregnant because she was about 6 months pregnant by then. So there wasn't hiding it anymore. And of course, she was having a baby. She wasn't pregnant. We have to remember that.
She was not pregnant, but there was a baby.
That's right. And they still slept in twin beds, just so we always know. We don't want to sully the image.
No, not at all.
More recent shows going through decades would have been the Brady Bunch incorporated music. They even tried to force those 6 lovely young people, some of who really had wonderful musical talent.
Absolutely. The Partridge Family?
The Partridge Family. Well, that was all about the music.
I know, they were so good.
And I miss David Cassidy. We will always miss him. That's sad. And even shows like The Monkees that also were wrapped around a band. And then you brought up one that we always liked, Ally McBeal.
I loved when they would leave the office and go to the karaoke bar and, I did a really good job. From 30 Rock, she was on 30 Rock as well, and she's the most phenomenally talented woman, and she would sing, and she was one of those people that blew my mind.
Yes.
Where she's a phenomenal comedic actress, and she was so great on the show, but then she would go to the karaoke bar, and I remember my jaw dropping at the level of talent that she had.
It's kind of incredible when you see that. And I'm going to now bring up a show that's just went off the air not too distant past, Glee. Now, Glee, we know, had a wide array of incredible musical talent on that show, right from, you know, the lead.
The first moment.
Well, and the teacher, Matthew Morrison, who was a Broadway star. But on top of that, one of my biggest moments was when I saw Jane Lynch sing for the first time. I had no idea the singing chops that this woman had.
And she did a song with Carol Burnett on the show too.
On the
who
show,
played her mom.
Played her mom. And of course, you know, you're just like, that was probably one of my favorite moments was when she would sing on that show.
Even the secondary and tertiary stars sang. And sometimes the joke was that they weren't great, but they were trying. But most of them really sang beautifully and brilliantly.
And many of them who were not singing well actually were faking not
Yeah.
singing well.
100%.
Which is why it was even more amusing, because if they would bring in huge talent and then you'd hear them sing a not so good note, you'd be like, it added the humor.
Exactly.
It truly
Yep.
added humor. And this was a show that it ended up being an all-star cast, even though to start with, there were only a few that were truly stars at that point.
Yeah.
Lea Michele was already a Broadway star.
And goddess extraordinaire.
Okay, I'll accept that.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it, right? And the fact that Idina Menzel ends up playing her birth mother.
Who everyone said she looked like and sounded like anyway. When they did the songs together from Les Mis,
Oh my gosh.
my sister and I sat there and were just like sobbing, emotional. It's so good.
And that show truly incorporated story and song in 1 hour segments. While there were some continuing threads of story, you actually got a sense that the story, it was still a 1 hour show each week. Sometimes it felt like a 1 hour drama. Sometimes it felt like a 1 hour sitcom.
Yep.
And I still remember, though, they had some really penultimate moments on that show that I think will go down in history. I think the moment when they did a memorial.
The quarterback is the episode.
Well, that one, the memorial for that. And they did another memorial for the young woman who played Jane Lynch's sister. Do you
That's
remember
right.
that?
Yep, for Becky.
So.
Oh, not her sister.
No. It was
yeah.
her. It played her sister. Her sister passed away.
Yeah.
Becky was one of the
Was
actresses
one of
on
her-
the
yeah.
show.
I forgot
And
about
they did,
that. Yeah.
and they did the funeral, but they did a musical tribute from one of the themes from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and it just
And for Whitney Houston, they did on there.
So they really knew how to take current times and bring them to song and bring them to story in the most beautiful way. They really did. I can't say enough, because I really didn't think I would enjoy it. I thought this was going to be a teeny bopper show, and it wasn't.
And I think it really reopened a genre that its doors had been closed for a really long time.
Yes.
The idea of a musical show, there had been shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer that had musical episodes that went down in history, but they were episodes. They were really small pieces. So to have an entire show that mixed Broadway with hip hop, with techno songs, like they really tried to do a vast, different type of show.
And the structure they did it in, which was assignments by the teacher, was perfect. It
Absolutely.
worked.
I've downloaded so many songs from Glee. I have an entire Glee playlist on my phone because they were good. On top of everything else, they were good
If I
covers.
said I have no idea what you're talking about, would you believe me?
Not even
Not
that.
even for her, because I have some of them even
Yeah.
on my playlists
Yep.
as well. You can't not. They're really that good.
They
were
really
that
are.
good. Moving on, there's a current show, almost like, I would say, trying to be on the heels of Glee. I have to say, that was where my thoughts went. On the
Yeah,
heels of
absolutely.
Glee and on the heels of Fame, which was a TV show a little after being the famous movie. They tried to make that into a TV show, and it did work for several years, including talent like Janet Jackson.
Yep.
And they carried over talent from the movie back then. But I would say there's a new show out this year, Rise.
My mom and dad love that show. And I enjoyed the first episode. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't enjoy it. I did.
Okay. I've seen Rise. I've seen all the episodes up till now. And I think, well, let me put it this way. I like the show. I'm trying to love the show. And part of me is that I do reflect on shows like Glee. And one of the pieces I see missing, which is, of course, Glee could never have really been a high school either, but at least the subjects they talked about could be high school subjects. But I'm seeing in Rise, they've selected a show, which right from the get-go, and I have been a teacher, so I think that's part of it.
I
I've taught in a public
worked in
school.
schools forever. Yep.
They chose the show Spring Awakening as the arc. Basically, it seems to be the season arc.
Yeah, the show within a show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is what a new theater director was trying to introduce, and much more exciting shows. They used to do Grease all the time.
Which is a really funny joke because everyone who's done musical theater in middle school or high school has done Grease.
Grease.
I've done Grease. Everyone I know who's done musical theater has done Grease. It's a classic go-to.
And you know what? There's a reason for that. It's fun. You can't leave a performance of Grease without smiling, which is what's so nice. What's so wrong about that? I mean, it's a nice feeling. Bringing in Spring Awakening, clearly he had an agenda, a positive agenda.
Absolutely.
To do more in the arts, get deeper into issues, and bring issues and art together. I get it. I do get it. I still have some trouble with it because I know Spring Awakening. I saw Spring Awakening in the theater. I don't know any public school that in a district I've taught in or in the regions I know that probably would have approved it as is and certainly could afford it because to get the rights to perform that show, it's not Grease. Grease was performed in the 70s, 1970s. This is a very recent show.
That's still, I believe they're still actively going on in the West End, possibly with one of their, the shows that they do for the hearing impaired.
Oh, okay, okay. So this is something that to me, I think part of my issue is I'm really trying to suspend reality and go for it, but sometimes I have trouble. I enjoy the storylines of the individual kids.
And they're wildly talented.
And they are wildly talented, but I
Ali
like their
Cravalho
stories.
from Moana is incredible.
Oh, you listen to her voice and you just want to say, let's just settle here for a while. And just let her sing, okay? Keep letting her sing.
Absolutely.
Because her voice just transcends the story and shares the story from the words of music. And I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. She brings the words that are in Spring Awakening attached to the music, to her life, and she generates that feeling. That's beautiful. When I focus on the kids, like I said, and their stories, it works. When I focus on the global picture of everything, I'm having some...
It's hard to want, I think they want us to get behind it and feel like we're a part of the fight, that we want to make this happen, but it's really hard for me to do that as an educator because frankly, I don't think it's appropriate for a big audience in high school. I think in some ways it can be. I think it can be used as material for discussion, but I don't know that I really am behind that fight as much as I think they want me to be.
I think I would be more behind the fight if I saw video of the actual performance in certain classes and discuss the issues going
Absolutely.
on.
100%, yes.
Because for those of you who don't know anything about Spring Awakening, it involves, from many, many years ago, it involves illegal abortion. It involves suicide. It involves
questioning of your sexuality.
Yeah.
Sexuality in general, really coming to grips with sexuality and what that means.
And sexual maturity.
Yeah. In a very, I don't want to say graphic because it's not graphic, but in a very direct way. There's no subtlety, there's no metaphor. This is what's actually happening and you see it happening.
And you see it happening. Now, artistically, of course, you can direct so it's not as clear. But it's happening.
But then it kind of loses the point.
Right, right. So I'm still on the fence about Rise. I'm still wanting to like it because I love the music and I love the singing. We'll see where that goes. Another thing we talked about a little bit was one of your favorite shows.
I may have mentioned it a couple of times.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which
renewed
is
for its fourth and final season.
Okay.
Which I have to say, first of all, that I love that the creators of the show, Rachel Bloom and Aileen Roche McKenna, were the ones who said, we want the show to end after 4 seasons. It is about the show for them. It's not about milking it for money. It's not about extending it to the point where it's broken. It's about the show and it's about the characters and the story and suiting that appropriately.
Okay.
And I love that because I think a lot of times now shows go beyond the scope of where they should go.
They get tired.
They get tired, they jump the shark, and it doesn't suit the characters or the story anymore, and you stop watching them. And I think they're protecting their art in a way that I really appreciate. Because to me, that's what the show is. It is art at its most brilliant and real and feminist and inclusive and magical and wonderful. I don't like the show at all. You can't tell.
I can't. And it also, though, coming back to our theme, incorporates music.
Oh, absolutely. And the songs, the thing that's great about them is there's a trio. So Rachel Bloom, who is the creator / a writer / a star / a songstress, dance, like she's everything.
Yes, right.
Also works with Jack Dogan and Adam Schlesinger, and they write these songs. So this is not the type of thing where like 75 people are like, hey, I have a song and let's see where we can fit it in. They're writing it as they go, and the songs are meant to fit the story as opposed to the other way around, where they're like, I have a funny idea for a song. Let's rewrite the show to fit that.
Right, so which is smart.
It's smart, and it always suits brilliantly, I think.
I mean, that's the arc of how theater developed.
Absolutely.
How musical theater developed was they used to have songs, and they wrote a weak story to shove songs in, to shove around the songs. Mm-hmm. And then what ultimately happened was they had a wonderful story, and they just kind of wrenched a song in, and then they realized a song can actually help build a story.
And there's not been a single song on the show that has not built a plot point, some piece of character information, or some other thing that I felt was really important, or tonally that really added to it. I don't think there's a wasted moment on the show.
I also like that there's original music.
Yeah, it's 100% original.
And that's what is very nice, because frequently we get, like with Glee and like with Rise, and I don't fault them in this, but we don't necessarily get original pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Glee only really towards the end, where there are a couple of them, like Losers Like Me and a couple of songs. But yeah, they do, in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I love, have little nods to songs. Like there are songs that are clearly written in the style of something, or supposed to sound like something, and you get it, and that's part of the joke, and they sing it in kind of like a winking fashion. But it's always very aware of its source material in a way that I appreciate. Even the theme songs, as they change, in the second season theme song, she makes little jokes about being an ingenue, and therefore she can't be crazy because she's an ingenue, and it's adorable.
And and they're tributes.
Absolutely.
They're tributes. It's like when SNL parodies something. Yep. I mean, they really are giving tribute. They're not parodying it because they think someone's terrible.
Absolutely. It's tipping the hat to the source material, saying, I see you, I built off of you, I like you, and now I'm going to do my own thing with you.
There you go. Perfect. And then you also talked about a show that we both like, Empire.
So, that show has changed television in so many ways, I think.
The first time I saw that first episode of Empire, I sat back and I went, okay, I'm hooked. I'm so hooked. Every moment, the songs, the theme, the drama. Wow, this is a drama. It's not musical comedy. It will never be called musical comedy. It can't
Even though
be mistaken.
It can be funny, but it's mostly not.
No, and it's serious. It's intense. It's a musical, yet there's violence at times. I mean,
They don't shy away from political or social issues at all. Mental illness played a big piece of the first season.
Mental illness, prison.
Relationships and what happens in them.
Gang. They have hit on so many intense subjects, and yet incredibly and seamlessly, because of the nature of the fact that Empire is about the music empire. They seamlessly can incorporate music. Fabulous, incredible songs have been released on this show.
And it's one thing that I've loved about Glee and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Empire is they're not afraid to pull in guest stars. That, again, like you have this
That's so true.
moment with Lea Salonga is on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Courtney Love is on Empire. Gwyneth Paltrow on Glee. But it works.
It works really well. I mean, the first time Kristen Chenoweth walked on Glee, I was like, does she really know she's on a TV show?
Does she know that she's on Glee right now? Patti LuPone was on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And I almost fell out of my seat She played a rabbi from Scarsdale. She's hilarious. With Tova Feldsha, who plays Rachel's mother on the show, or Rebecca's mother on the show, who's just unbelievable.
And I've seen both of these women on Broadway. So, I mean, the fact that they're going on these TV shows is just adding such a richness because they don't bring it down. What they do is they elevate.
Absolutely.
They elevate story. So bringing music into story really is fabulous.
And with Empire, you can't, even though the main characters don't necessarily sing all the time. It's interesting, like most of the singing on Empire is done by the children of the family, and then every once in a while Terrence Howard will throw something in, and Taraji P. Henson is a tour de force of everything that is incredible and wonderful and magic and powerful.
I think she can be in anything, and I would love it and give it an A+.
She could play Mr. Rogers, and I would totally believe it.
I believe it, yeah.
I'd be like, yep, she's Mr. Rogers, 100%. I think, Taraji, Mr. Rogers biopic. It's all you.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. Now, the new vogue is live musicals.
Yep.
Live musicals on TV. So far, the two big networks that have brought these about are NBC and Fox. NBC started it, if I'm wrong. Somebody out there, if I'm wrong, comment and correct me, please.
She is correct.
Brought us The Sound of Music. I have never seen a show promoted that many months in advance.
Yeah.
Yet, the moment I could set my DVR,
You did.
those promos worked because my DVR was like, you know, they go far back out and it's like, no, not yet, no, not yet. I waited and I set it.
The second it was
Available.
available.
That DVR was set, and I always added half an hour because I wasn't going to miss a moment because it was live. Who knew what would happen? I wasn't sure how well they'd fit in the parameters. I watched it. I liked it.
I liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it.
I think it's very hard because when you know that Mary Martin originated a role on Broadway, but that was okay because it could be made into a movie. And then you hear Julie Andrews. It's really hard not to hear Julie Andrews when you say this.
Her performance is so iconic.
You say the title, The Sound of Music. It's really hard to separate that. I do think they did a good job. They also seem to stick primarily to the play, to the true Broadway play, as opposed to the movie, which I think helped.
Which I think most of them are really doing, from what I've seen. Most of the live shows are really focusing in on the source material of the show rather than the movies, which I think is a good choice.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think if you try to imitate a movie on television, then you just might as well air the movie. Which it does air. I mean, it's not like we don't see The Sound of Music every single year.
The one exception, I think, was my favorite one, which was Grease, which I think they did in some ways. It was directed by the director of Hamilton, and he set it up really as if it were the movie in a lot of ways. They had this sprawling set, and they would take you back and forth, and that was the only one to me that felt like a movie versus a live production.
And it was fun. I felt that one. It was rich. It was exciting to watch.
Vanessa Hudgens was incredible.
All
as
of
Rizzo.
them were.
They really were.
They
all
really
of
were.
them
They were all. I mean, Julianne Hough. Oh, wow.
I
She
didn't
blew me
give her
away.
credit. Yeah, I didn't give her really enough credit before I saw it, and then she totally blew my mind.
She did. She blew my mind too. I thought she was outstanding, and I think she really carried the role. And of course, recently, I think Jesus Christ Superstar live in concert.
Oh, John
on
Legend was
NBC.
unbelievable.
That was outstanding. That was outstanding. And I think those three really hit their mark. I think there were three also done that, while had good points to them, missed the mark and maybe needed a little more rehearsal or
something.
Or different selections of performers, or maybe a different selection of a musical to do. There was the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which was, I found, mediocre by comparison to the movie. Because I think the movie was so amazing, and then the show itself, when it was for an audience that you didn't have to worry about a TV rating, was well done and fun. I thought Peter Pan was mediocre. I would have rather seen the Mary Martin movie again, to be honest.
It's hard because Christian Borle is fantastic and Christopher Walken is fantastic, but it just didn't quite work for me.
It just, I felt like they added so much that it made it really long, And what they actually did was made a 1.5 hour play musical, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And on a musical that really is focused on a child's story, that's really uncomfortable in many ways.
And not terribly well loved in the same way. Peter Pan is a fantastic show, but it's not The Lion King. It's not Phantom of the Opera. It's
That's
not
so
The Sound
true.
of Music.
Oh my gosh, yes. There are things that are like classic, and that wasn't even in the ballpark.
I would love to see a Spam-A-Lot live, personally. They haven't
Okay.
done it, but Spam-A-Lot live.
NBC, Fox, Spam-A-Lot Live. You've
Spam-A-Lot
got two
Live.
people here who'd be watching it and promoting it right now.
And you can still have a couple of the original cast.
There you go. There you
They
go.
would do cameos.
Oh, of course they could. Of course they could. And the other one that we thought really needed some work was Hairspray. I think that one, I don't know if it was rushed. It just didn't make it. The other two I watched and enjoyed.
Yeah.
Just didn't love. Hairspray, I watched because I thought I should watch it because I knew it was a special moment.
The exception for me being Jennifer Hudson, who,
Okay, Jennifer
Crying.
Hudson could read a phone book to me or
Yeah.
sing a phone book to
Yeah.
me, and I'd be okay with that.
as Mom's Mabel, she was unbelievable.
I'm going to move on quickly because we're
Yeah.
almost out of time. Oh no. We could talk about musical television, by the way. We can talk about musical anything
All
for
day.
like hours.
We do. Yeah.
There we go. Children have some of the best TV shows that incorporate music.
I'm so happy that I have Zach that you all met earlier in the in the episodes because I have an excuse to watch them all now.
And while my daughter is a, self-proclaimed love of children's television, I have her. She's my excuse. Oh, Jen's coming over. We have to watch the Disney Channel. They have made movies, including High School Musical and The Descendants, which are amazing musicals.
Not even guilty pleasures for me. I'm like out loud. They are fantastic movies. I would watch High School Musical or Descendants 1 or 2 anytime.
And they're great. They have creative characters that appeal to so many. And then, of course, public broadcasting and Schoolhouse Rock. I mean, let's face it, Sesame Street, where would they be without that theme?
Yeah.
And they sing about everything. They sing about counting. I don't even like math, but I like their songs.
And they stick in your head, but in a really good way.
In a really good
they're not
way.
the earworms that you hate.
No, they're not.
They make you happy. You kind of bounce as you.
As you listen to them. And I used to love watching that when my children were really little, my best excuse, and total guilty pleasure. We are going to try to tie this up now, so sadly. In the words of Carol Burnett, and I won't sing because Rachel can and I can't, I'm so glad we had this time together. To Carol Burnett, who was one of the big musical moguls on television. Amazing. Rachel and I will say good night, goodbye, and we're going to definitely see you next month with more. And maybe we'll do some more music-related things in the future, like theme songs. Ooh.
Oh, I do have a musical exit if you want one.
Go for it.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu. Right? That's pretty good. Yeah.
Bye-bye, everybody, from Carolyn Talks Television, and you can find me on carolyntopoltalk.com.
Bye.